Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 5 starts now.
General Motors reveals another $3 billion in profits, and the UAW responds by striking one of the automaker's most important plants. Glad you're with us for Local 4 News at 5. I'm Devin Skillian.
I'm Kimberly Gill. Only a few hours went by between GM announcing its third quarter earnings and the union announcing its new strike target. The Arlington, Texas assembly plant employs about 5,000 UAW members. It makes highly profitable, full-sized SUVs such as the Cadillac Escalade, GMC Yukon, and Chevy Tahoe.
So now there are a total of more than 45,000 UAW line workers walking the picket lines. Business editor Rod Maloney live with a look at where this is all headed now. Rod.
Well, Devin, Kimberly, President Shawn Fain is turning up the heat, obviously, now 2 days in a row doing these kinds of walk-offs. It's day 40 of the strike, and if you remember back in 2019, that's as long as the strike lasted back then, and there's no end in sight in this one, although it's obvious both sides do want an end as soon as possible. 10 a.m. Eastern Time, the surprise announcement that just a couple of weeks delayed. Fain came very close to shuttering the Arlington SUV plant on October 6th, and even though GM made a new and larger offer on Friday that Fain seemed glad to see, it still wasn't enough, apparently. So outside the plant today, UAW Local 276 line worker Mike Janark said,
with the inflation going up 20%, your paycheck's getting a lot smaller. So pay up. That's all we're asking for. We just want a decent wage. That's all we're looking for.
Fain's statement went to the heart of the matter. GM's continued success makes his point. Quote, another record quarter, another record year. As we've said for months, record profits equal record contracts. It's time for GM workers and the whole working class to get their fair share, end quote. For its part, GM took today's big financial hit about as well as Stellantis did yesterday after losing its Sterling Heights assembly plant, saying in part in a statement, quote, we're disappointed by the escalation of this unnecessary and irresponsible strike. It is harming our team members who are sacrificing their livelihoods and having negative ripple effects on our dealers, suppliers, and the communities that rely on us. It is time for us to finish this process, get our team members back to work, end quote. Wayne State University business professor Dr. Merrick Masters tells Local 4 Fain is looking to close things out here.
This is a signal that he's getting impatient with the lack of progress and wants to bring this thing to a close, with workers at some sites having been out for nearly 6 weeks now.
General Motors is saying it's lost about $200 million a week. They say that they lost $800 million so far in their conference call this morning talking about their earnings. But the fourth quarter could bring much more losses, and that's one of the analysts that we talked to, Dave Whiston from Morningstar, is saying that he fears this strike could go through the end of the year, and with that to happen, it could cost General Motors billions of dollars. And certainly everyone that we've been talking to, Devin, says they'd like this thing to come to a close much sooner than that.
Audible sighs in the studio when you said end of the year. So, Rod, what is this doing then to the talks themselves right now?
Well, as we understand it, a source close to the talks yesterday told me that Stellantis immediately came to the table. They worked late into the night last night, that the activity with Ford is going quite well. You have to imagine that General Motors is in there looking to see what they've got to do to solve this thing. And there is the belief that there is active negotiating, but the issue of EVs and the joint ventures still remains a problem, because even yesterday, Fain said it's dead in the water, and he's not sure how that's going to go. So we're going to have to wait and see where this all shakes out.
Really tricky when we've had automakers say that that's as far as they can go, and then you find yourself going farther, and of course that opens a whole new can of worms. Boy, oh boy. All right, Rod.
All right, accused by a colleague of misconduct, the chair of Michigan State's Board of Trustees is defending herself on camera. Despite calls to step down, Rima Vassar says she isn't going anywhere. Local 4's Will Jones spoke to Vassar this afternoon. Hi, Will.
Kimberly, Rima Vassar was blindsided when trustee Brianna Scott sent a letter to the board over the weekend, putting forth several allegations. Today, Vassar wanted to set the record straight.
MSU Board of Trustees Chair Rima Vassar making it clear this afternoon she has no plans to resign. This coming after trustee Brianna Scott sent a letter to the board requesting Vassar step down, accusing her of improper conduct and overstepping her authority. Vassar calling the allegations baseless.
I didn't think that this kind of old school way of ruthlessly taking down volunteers would be something I would encounter.
One of the allegations, Vassar may have leaked the name of Brenda Tracy to 2 former trustees surrounding the Mel Tucker sexual misconduct investigation.
The idea that I would leak a survivor's name is completely antithetical to who I am.
Scott also accused Vassar of bullying MSU interim president Teresa Woodruff and usurping her authority. Woodruff, in a statement yesterday, described fulfilling her responsibilities as challenging at times, but did not directly mention Vassar. Vassar says she's no bully.
I don't think that women who are assertive and confident, who are self-assured, who ask tough questions, I do ask tough questions, should be labeled anything other than good leaders.
The Board of Trustees has its next meeting Friday. At that meeting, a vote could happen on whether to keep Vassar on as chair, but Kimberly, there is no indication that board members will take a vote on whether to keep her as chair then. Kimberly?
Okay, Will, so I'm wondering what happens next with the allegations that were made in that letter about Vassar?
Well, an outside office at the university will investigate those claims and then make recommendations to the board, and it's up to the board to decide what to do after that. Kimberly?
A lot of layers, and we know you'll keep us posted. Will, thank you.
Some wild scenes captured on dashboard and body cameras in Macomb County as police track down suspects in a kidnapping. It all started in the parking lot of a Lifetime Fitness facility near Hayes and Hall Roads in Shelby Township. Victor Williams live to take us through a turn of events here that is chaotic. Victor.
Yeah, that's right, Devin. Chaotic indeed, and police are still looking for 3 of the 4 men responsible. One of those men was arrested already and is going to be facing 12 charges, including carjacking and armed robbery.
Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
A kidnapping spoiled by cops.
Get on your stomach! Get on your stomach now!
Sergeant Mark Benedettini with the Shelby Township Police Department calls it a bold and shocking crime that played out outside of this Lifetime Fitness Monday night, with a 24-year-old being kidnapped by 4 men armed with weapons.
Looking at video from the gym, it was determined that this victim was actually abducted as he left the gym and was walking to his car at gunpoint because they were wearing ski masks.
That 24-year-old was tied up and forced into the back of his own black GM pickup truck. Not too much later, an officer spotted the same vehicle on Deering Drive in Sterling Heights. From there, a short chase begins. That's until a crash takes place at 15 Mile and Maple Lane.
This is not a everyday occurrence, these kidnappings, especially in Shelby Township.
All 4 of the kidnappers took off running after the crash. Cops are only able to catch one, taking him into custody almost immediately. He's now at the Macomb County Jail. Police are now vowing to find the other men responsible.
Our detectives have been working throughout the day with search warrants, and it's still a very active investigation.
The victim was found in the back of the truck along with a loaded rifle. Police are saying this definitely wasn't someone they chose out the blue.
We feel that this victim was targeted by these 4 individuals. I can't really get into the reasons why at this point, but we're very confident this was not a random act.
And in just the last few minutes, we received information from the police department which alleges that actually these men decided to drive the victim to his own home where they tortured him. And shortly after they left, that's when the chase began. But of course, we'll keep everyone updated on this situation as it continues to play out. Victor Williams.
My goodness. All right, Victor.
As 2 more hostages are released from Hamas control, they're starting to share stories of what they've endured. At the same time, the healthcare system in Gaza is on the verge of collapse. President Biden saying today aid is not reaching those who desperately need it quickly enough. Alice Barr has more from Capitol Hill.
New images of 2 released hostages show the elderly Israeli women being transferred from Hamas custody to Israeli forces. 85-year-old Yocheved Lifshitz says she was treated relatively well in captivity after going through hell.
My mom is telling the horrific stories. She's saying that many people, a swarm of people, came through the fence.
Their appearance like a mirage for the more than 200 families still waiting for word of their loved ones kidnapped by Hamas.
They're going to push our buttons because they know how precious all these lives are and how desperately we want them all back.
American Galia Mizrahi has 4 family members among the hostages. 2 more were murdered in the October 7th terror attacks. She traveled from Los Angeles to Israel and attended the funerals, complete with a military procession.
There was something very shocking just seeing it in front of your eyes.
I wonder if you feel of 2 worlds or how this has maybe reshaped some of your views and your feelings.
As terrible as it is to be here right now and how as exhausting and sad, there are also moments of such beauty and how people have gotten together.
Amid urgent hostage negotiations, Secretary of State Antony Blinken at the UN Security Council calling for the first time for a pause in Israel's aerial bombardment of the Gaza Strip to get hostages and Palestinian civilians to safety and let humanitarian aid in.
Humanitarian pauses must be considered for these purposes.
President Biden saying today food, water, and medicine are not getting into Gaza quickly enough amid desperate shortages of supplies and a medical system on the brink of collapse.
Alice Barr, Local 4.
All right, Alice, if you blink right now, you might miss a change in the race to be the next House Speaker. It has been moving very quickly throughout the day, and in the past hour, Minnesota Congressman Tom Emmer has now dropped his bid to grab the gavel after earlier looking like perhaps the favorite. Republicans chose the GOP whip during private ballots this morning. It wasn't clear if he had enough support to win in the full House vote. Some members of the GOP refused to support him because he voted to certify the 2020 election results. The House has been without a speaker for 3 weeks now.